And thank goodness we have people like our practitioners to go to when we're maybe feeling a little doubt or struggling with an issue, or we just really want to break through something and move in a new direction in our life. And how wonderful it is to have people like our practitioners, our professionally licensed practitioners, who see that in us. They see that truth in us. And yet, how often do we look in the mirror and not see that truth about ourselves? We don't see the kingdom of God where we're standing. We don't see the peace that we want to be, or the abundance, or the joy that we want to be. We look in the mirror and, well, what do we see? We see our funky hair, and we see a few wrinkles, a few extra pounds. We see a little blemish here or there. We see all of our faults and our foibles, don't we? Which is, of course, one of the reasons why we have practitioners who will see for us the truth when we are challenged with seeing it ourselves. And yet our practitioners and our ministry is designed to teach each and every one of us how to do this for ourselves, how to see these truths for ourselves in our own lives, within us. And so today, as we explore this is in the context of our monthly theme, that we envision the reemergence of beauty, nature, art, and aesthetic. Sometimes because we need to be reminded of these truths, and we need to be able to see them so that we can believe in them. I know that we're taught, believe it and then you'll see it. That is, it takes a lot of faith. And sometimes what we want to do is find ways to see it so that we can believe it in our own lives, so that we can see it within ourselves. And so beauty and nature, art and aesthetics, these are things that we can see truth in. And so it becomes a wellspring for all of us. This ability, this willingness, this looking for truth, looking for the divine presence, looking and finding the evidence for the truth that we believe. So as Reverend Karen said, we just came home from some lovely vacation time, which was really great, up in the mountains. It was very cool. It was quite rainy. We had some lovely opportunities to reconnect and to see the divine presence. And I love this picture that Reverend Karen took in Vail. This was actually in Vail. And so if you don't know what this is a hummingbird moth on these beautifully bright petunias, like, wow, purple. Is it really necessary for them to be that bright? Really? Is it necessary? Is a hummingbird moth really necessary? Well, I don't know. I suppose its job is to pollinate the flowers while it's feeding itself, right? Like a hummingbird and like the butterflies. But is it really necessary for it to be that pretty? It could be boring and plain and ordinary. It could be hard to see or hard to notice. But it's not, is it? It's ridiculously beautiful and stunning beyond belief. I mean, we were transfixed watching this little creature fly around these exquisite flowers. And of course, we can see this everywhere. This is the top of a hike that we went on. And if you stand up there at the top of that mountain, this is the third lake up, and you look out, right? You see that you look out and out and out and out, don't you? When I stand here and I look at this kind of view, I notice that my whole being expands. Not only do I see the unlimited nature of life, I begin to feel it myself. I find myself less confined by my responsibilities, my duties, the things I need to do. Because the very view itself, right, invites us to expand, to move into the very unlimitedness that we see with our eyes in nature. And so nature is there. It goes to show us and to teach us about the unlimited nature of reality by being able to see it. Do you see? We begin to move the idea of, well, it's an unlimited universe. Well, I live in an abundant universe. Right? We say these words, and they can so often be just intellectual concepts. We've read them in a book, somebody's told us that this is true, and we struggle to actually believe that it's so. Or we wonder, well, what does that feel like? And so we can see evidence of that which we believe to be true. And as we do so, right, we begin to expand ourselves. We begin to move into that, or more of that maybe we don't see in the mirror. When we look in the mirror, in the confines of our ordinary life, of our everyday. Sometimes the beauty is so extravagant, it's jaw-dropping to me. This is the end of a sunset in Taos, and I title it Angel Fire. That's what it looks like to me. And it was so exquisite, we couldn't decide whether to look at the reflection on the rain above the mountains or to look over at the sunset that was happening behind us. And one of the things that we notice with things like this is how quickly they pass, how quickly, in a blink of moving to look at this and take this picture and move back and look at the sunset, it was over. That quick. That quick. We had this other image. We were driving up towards Breckenridge, and it felt like an angel had broken through the clouds. And Karen was driving, windy road, driving, and I was like, stop, you have to see this. We have to stop, so she had to pull out. Wow, oh my gosh. And we got this amazing picture. How many of us are driving in our roads, doing, got to do this, got to do that, responsibilities, obligations, go to work, pay the bills, go home, driving, and forgetting to look up, forgetting to see the angels in our lives, the light as it breaks through some darkness, as it moves into our lives from a friend, a loved one, a song, a reading, a moment in a class here on a Sunday morning, that thing that breaks through. But you see, in that case, somebody had to say, stop, look up, don't miss it. That's why we have each other. That's why we have practitioners. That's why we get together, because sometimes we're so busy driving, doing, accomplishing, that we don't see. We don't see the beauty of life. We don't experience the divine presence and the way that it is breaking through into our lives. And so we need someone to say, stop, wait, did you notice? Did you see? Look, pay attention. There's a wonderful line in Lisa Ferraro and Erika Luckett. They have a beautiful song, and it has a line in it that says, if you're not in awe, you're not paying attention. If you're not in awe, you're not paying attention. And why are we not paying attention? Partly because we're busy, because we're involved in the conditions of our own lives. But we also don't see it because our vision is paved over with false beliefs, limited thinking, old ideas. Remember that song, Paved Paradise, Put Up a Parking Lot? We have paved the paradise of our own connection with the divine. We have paved that paradise with our own belief and limitation, with our unbelief, with our fear, with our doubt, with our hurried accomplishment so that we'll feel like somebody. Do you see? Those are all the ways that we pave over our own paradise. And yet each and every one of us has seen places where that paving has happened, and then all of a sudden there is a little blade of grass, or a little flower, or life breaking through. And that's happening everywhere all the time in each and every one of our lives. But are we paying attention? This was the beginning of our second hike, one of the most beautiful hikes I think I've ever been on. And I was transfixed by this. This looks like the epitome of as above, so below to me. And we recognize that our lives are a reflection of that which we believe to be true. And this created universe is a reflection of the divine. It is an expression, an outpicturing of who we are. The challenge is that we become fixated on the reflection. And if it's been paved over, do you see, there is no pond to reflect God. There is no mirror to reflect the light. If we've paved it over with our limited thinking, our false beliefs. This picture was taken on the way to Taos on a little dusty road with weeds growing on the side of the road. Sagebrush, not a tree in sight. Oh, a few mountains in the distance. Rainy clouds. This is one of my favorite pictures that I took the whole trip. Oh, it's just some weeds. Right? Do we see the beauty in our ordinary lives? In our everyday, ordinary lives? Can we pick up our head and see the beauty of life in those around us, in the things that we are a part of, in the ways in which we are engaging in life, in the way that the light is breaking through over and over and over again in surprising and astonishing ways? Are we paying attention? Do we see it? Ernest Holmes says, these mountains here do not reflect the glory of God. They are the glory of God. The mountain is God's idea of itself that way. That is why we can commune with nature in her visible form, and that is why a tree can speak to us, which it most certainly can if we would develop the ability to listen. To listen and to see, right? The scripture tells us, sermon in a stone, sermon in the stones. The leaves clapped out of joy. But we actually have to put ourselves in the position, in the place where we are available to this, where we lift up our heads and we see the divine presence. We see the spiritual reality pouring out of creation. Because we're all one, right? We're one with that creation. And if we can see it there, might it not be possible that we could also see it here? And so, as we envision the emergence or the re-emergence of beauty and nature, it isn't just to save the planet, although that is a very good reason. It isn't just to be green or to be, I don't know, one of those tree-hugging people, right? It is actually to allow life to show itself to us, for spirit to speak to us, for the divine to reveal itself to us in a way that is so concrete and tangible that we can no longer doubt that the light exists and that spirit is present. So one of the Facebook posts that I made while we were on the trip, I was moved to post some photos of a hike that Karen and I had taken, and she'd done a beautiful job, talking about the hike and the different places that we stopped, and I had made some posts like that too, and somehow in this particular post I took some of my pictures, and what I noticed is that what I wanted to say about the image was the quality of God that it revealed to me. So this is a mountain lake. This is Mohawk Lake. This is the last big 2,000 elevation gain foot hike that we took. This is about 1,500 feet elevation gain. I don't know. We're at 20. We're at 12.5, 12.5 elevation total. And you can be 400 feet above this lake on the trail and look down at the lake, and it is so clear you can see the bottom. Yeah. Whoa. Now, any time that I have to do treatment, spiritual mind treatment, about clarity in my life, I no longer have any doubt that clarity exists because I've seen it with my own eyes. Do you see? So, I have a ridiculous number of photographs of waterfalls and streams, and I take little videos of them because I love them. And I literally 10 years of these little videos. I have no idea what I'm ever going to do with them. But every single time I see one of these, and I am compelled to take a picture of it, right? I am reminded of the unlimited abundance and flow of life. And I'm always astonished how freely it's given, pouring out of the side of a mountain. And as long as we don't interfere, it's going to keep doing that. It's going to keep pouring itself out there. And I think, now there's flow. There is unlimited, absolute flow. I can put my cup in there. I can put my whole hat in there. I can put my backpack in there. It doesn't matter how much water I take out of there. That thing is just going to keep right on flowing. And do you see, for those of you, any of you who have ever had a spiritual mind treatment done by me, if I've done a prayer for you, I always reach for these kinds of physical, natural metaphors because I've seen it. Do you see? Because there is no doubt in my mind that flow is a reality. That unlimited givingness of life to all is a reality because I've seen it. Ernest Holmes says this: all of our memories of the past will be healed, and all the pent-up energies of unexpressed desires will flow out from us in joyful expression if our communion with nature and with the Spirit becomes complete. This is why quiet and secluded spots tend to rest us. But the only quiet and secluded spot in all the universe is at the center of our own being, where pure spirit reigns supreme. Do you see, ultimately, when we look in nature and we see the very qualities of God that we ourselves seek, or that we think we don't see in our own mirrors, well, you know the old phrase. What is it? You spot it, you got it. Right? Usually we use that in a negative term. Well, if you spot it, then you're just judging that person. That means that you're that way too. But if you can see clarity and flow and beauty and love and light and joy, if you can see it reflected back to you from the beauty of nature itself, you spot it, you got it. Do you see? And by taking these opportunities to commune with Spirit, and to allow the stones to speak, to see feel and experience the sermon that they have to give us, then we begin to reveal to ourselves these things that are no longer intellectual ideas. I live in an abundant universe. The universe supports me. There's flow, all these things. Do you see, this is the way that we begin to make this real to ourselves. And our communion becomes the place from which we speak, from which we live. And it is at the center of our own being, which is why we don't have to live in the mountains. We don't have to be a hermit or a monk or withdraw from the world, because that which we see is the truth of our being. We wouldn't see it. We couldn't see it if it wasn't within us already. Now, I ask myself, so nature and beauty, totally get that, speaks to me, has always spoken to me, which is why I use it so much in my spiritual work. Why art and aesthetics with beauty and nature? Why are these coupled together? And I think it's because art and aesthetics is our representation of what we see in nature. It's our seeking to express these very qualities that we feel that we have, hope that we have, or want to have in some way. And so we see it reflected back to us, but in our art and our aesthetics, this is our human revelation of the spiritual truth and the presence of the divine. So we had the opportunity in Santa Fe. We went to a Spanish tapas restaurant, and they were advertising a flamenco dancing that they do almost every night by a local flamenco troupe. And I love flamenco dancing. I was like, oh my gosh, we gotta go. So we got tickets for the dinner and, for the dance. And then we got there and we found out not only was it a local troupe, but they actually brought in, there's somebody from Spain who was coming, I guess, to teach them more, work with them. And it was really extraordinary. It was some of the most amazing flamenco dancing I've ever seen, including the slightly portly guy. Amazing flamenco dancing that I've ever seen. And yet, how often when we see those kinds of things, right, we feel elevated by it, we feel fulfilled by it, whether it's flamenco dancing or disco dancing or hip-hop dancing or classical dancing, whatever it is, but we say, oh yeah, not me. Yeah, they can do that, but not me. We found art and these beautiful sculptures everywhere we went. This was a lovely little sculpture in the corner of a Breckenridge Park. Gazing at the Sun, I think it was called. Just beautiful, exquisite piece of art. And I find myself looking at that and going, oh yeah, well, I'd never do something like that, right? I'm not an artist. Even in this dusty old town we were driving through, I mean, this town had one cross street, two little cafes. I mean, literally, it was, 10 buildings that was the town. Little dusty thing. We actually stopped and had lunch there. And there was this incredible mural on the side of the building that depicted sort of frontier life. This was exquisite art in the middle of this dusty little teeny tiny, the town is so small I can't even remember what it was called. It was so small. And here's this art just being the expression of someone. And we go, yeah, well, I'd love to do that, but, right? Not me. So we were in Breckenridge for a week, and after a couple days of hiking, it's a lot of hiking and it's a lot of altitude. Oh, we needed a break. We were like, okay, we're not going to hike today. We are going to rest today. And if you saw it on the Facebook, we found a little place called Ready Fire Paint. No, Ready Paint Fire. I always do it wrong. Ready Paint Fire. And so we went over there, we looked it up, we went over there. You could make a canvas, you could do a little mosaic, or you could pick out some piece of clay that you could paint and fire. And we were like, okay. Karen was I don't know what I'm going to do. I've never painted before. But who cares? She got out her little canvas, found a little picture that she wanted to paint. Voila. Karen's first ever painting. Oh, not me. No, not me. I can't paint, right? That's what we say to ourselves. But when we have broken through the crust of our limited thinking, our own doubt and fear. So I decided to get a little Santa, and I painted it and fired it. And this is my little Santa that I made. I know, it's very cool. So I have a special Santa collection, and for those of you who know, I'm a big Christmas Santa nut. And so now this year, I'm adding one that I made, right? And oh my God, can I tell you, when I finished painting it and put it on the shelf, I was like, oh, I don't know. But boy, oh boy, when it fired, it was magnificent. Ernest Holmes says this: I believe it was Plato who said that God is love, truth, and beauty. It has always seemed wonderful to me that one of the world's greatest thinkers should have included beauty as a necessary part of the divine nature. How evident this beauty is everywhere we look. How wonderful is the landscape, the sunset, or the color of the desert at dawn. How beautiful is the daffodil in its sweet simplicity, and what majestic beauty and strength is in the mountain and the wave. Everything is rooted in beauty. Beauty is harmony and right proportion. It is symmetry and charm and grace and loveliness. Surely we should identify ourselves with this terrific beauty that pours its warmth and color over everything and seems to be at the very root of our being. And so do we look in the mirror and see the beauty at the root of our own being? See the way in which the light is pouring through us, uniquely, special, precious, perfect. So we stayed in lots of different places. We got some Airbnb, we did some hotels. This was a beautiful little home, an Airbnb done by a German architect who now builds all over that area. And this was the patio and the sagebrush and the mountains and a fountain and two little red chairs. Gorgeous, right? This person's aesthetic. This is a picture I took because I love these blues. This is Santa Fe. Now, personally, I would never choose to live where there aren't any trees, nor would I choose to live in an adobe house. I have a different aesthetic. Think the Swiss Alps, and you sort of have my aesthetic, right? With a little Danish thing thrown in. But do you see, my aesthetic is mine, and this person is theirs, and this person is theirs, and yours is yours. And each of when we take the time and when we realize that there's beauty at the very core of our soul, and we allow that beauty to spill out into our own lives, do you see, we begin to surround ourselves with the reflection, the revelation of the very presence of the divine. We don't have to go to the mountains or look at a stream or look at a beautiful sunset. We can look at the beauty that we have revealed in our own lives, our own personal aesthetic. So we begin to build a dance, do you see, with that which we see that reveals spirit to us, with that which we express, which allows us to reveal spirit back. Beauty, nature, art, and aesthetic. Now in Taos, we had a really extraordinary experience. We were there for a very short period of time, and we just went into a couple of galleries, and one of the galleries that we went into was this extraordinary photographer, Lenny Foster. And so we didn't know who he was when we first went in, And there were some beautiful images, and in the first couple of rooms, looking around, and we got to the middle room, and I realized Karen had peeled off, and she was looking at something, and I went into the back room, and in the back room was one big giant room with all these images on the walls, and it was entitled Healing Hands. I was transfixed. I wanted to weep. Black and white pictures on one side, images of, well, Christian Bible, Native American shaman, Hindus with mala beads, one woman with very, very, very extremely dark hands with a woven basket in which her runes were shaken, just her hands. And he said she was a 106-year-old healer. While I was transfixed in these photographs in the back, Karen was transfixed by the exact same book, Healing Hands, in the front. We had no idea that we were both looking at the same thing. Well, come to find out, this CSLDallas, they meet in his gallery. And the woman who works in this gallery, she rents from the minister, the CSL minister in Albuquerque. Small world. Small world. Oh, and I'm saying his name out loud, Lenny Foster, because he does claim to know somebody in this community. He just can't remember who it is. So if you know Lenny Foster, let us know, because we'd like to let him know who it is that he knows. It's pretty funny. He's like, I know somebody from your community. And after about an hour, it was such an extraordinary experience to see him and what he had revealed in the hands of all of these shamans and priests and healers and holy people. You see, and Karen and I both had that experience. We wept in front of these photos. And it was very similar to the experience that we had on this hike as she and I were walking down, and we wept walking down. When was the last time that you saw that kind of beauty in someone else? Not just in nature, not just in the sunset, or the beautiful moonrise, or the tree or the bird, but in someone's gnarled hands, or their lined smile, or in your own mirror. Do you see? When we allow ourselves to commune with life and to commune with the divine, we open ourselves up. Ernest Holmes says, communion with the Spirit is one of the greatest privileges of life. By communion with God, we do not mean telling the infinite what to do or how to do it, for that is talking at God rather than communing with him. By communion, we mean silently entering into divine harmony and beauty until we feel that harmony and beauty in our own souls, in our own minds. And so this is why, in a world that works for everyone, we seek and envision this reemergence of beauty and nature, of art and aesthetics, because it is a way that we can tangibly, consciously, physically align ourselves and experience and reveal the presence of life itself. This may be the beauty that moves you, or you may find beauty in the sands of the desert. Each one of us, that beauty, that life speaks to us personally, individually, in our own unique way. It's not this beauty or that beauty or some beauty better more than other beauty. Some of us are not motivated to go out into the wilderness. And so we sit in the beauty of our own homes, and we allow the beauty of our relationships, or the beauty of an experience of sound or movement to reveal to us this presence. But the point is, it's always there. This presence is always peeking through. Our job is to stop and to breathe, to be in awe, and to pay attention. So I'd like to close with this prayer. This is a reading from, it was actually yesterday. This is the reading from 365 Science of Mind by Ernest Holmes. I just invite you to go within and listen. Realizing that all action starts in and is a result of consciousness, prepare your mind to receive the best that life has to offer. Become increasingly aware of the one presence, the one life, and the one spirit, which is God. Drop all sense of lack or limitation from your thought, for spirit works for you through your belief. All things are possible to this spirit. Therefore, everything is possible to you in the degree as you can believe, accept, and see it. There is something within you that is completely aware of its oneness with power, of its unity with life. Lose all thoughts of discord and fear, and permit the true pattern to come to the surface. Say to yourself, I allow the divine wholeness to flow through me in ever-widening circles. Every good I have experienced is now increased. Every joy that has come into my life is now multiplied. There is a new influx of inspiration into my thought, and I see more clearly than ever before my divine birthright: freedom, joy, and eternal goodness. The divine presence interprets itself to me through love and friendship, through peace and harmony and beauty. Knowing that life gives according to my faith, I lift my mind, I elevate my faith, and I listen deeply to the song of my own being. And so it is.